It's a convention that journalists take for granted. Unless otherwise specified, every conversation is on the record. But as the dust-up over a recent New York Times story shows, it's not clear that the public follows the same ground rules we do. Adam has more.
If Neera Tanden's name rings a bell, that's because back in 2016, she was a high-profile surrogate for Hillary Clinton.
Donald Trump is not capable of dealing with the stress of being president.
Tanden also runs the Center for American Progress, whose media arm Think Progress recently released this video accusing Bernie Sanders of going soft on millionaires after he got richer. That video prompted an angry letter from Sanders and a front-page New York Times piece on the never-ending Sanders-Clinton beef. But rather than stick to the main players, the Times interviewed Tanden's mother, who offered some choice quotes. Sanders got a pass in 2016. Her daughter is very aggressive and also sick of her job. After the story ran, Tanden's mom claimed she was duped, saying, "I didn't understand my words would be used in the story. I feel very misled." The Times took a beating on Twitter, but Slate's Mike Pesca defended the paper.
Can you imagine an outlet interviewing a public figure's mother? Yeah, I can. It happens quite a bit. Your feelings of being misled, ma'am, I'm sorry to say, are illegitimate. The only thing that's legitimate is the journalism.
Naturally, the Times agrees, saying the piece included accurate on-the-record comments and that Tanden's mom is knowledgeable about Democratic politics and her daughter's career. If she wasn't before, she is now.
Okay, Dan, so first of all, we don't really know what the reporter said to Tanden's mother. Assume she said, "This is on the record."
Yes.
So the woman must have comprehended that to a certain extent. My biggest issue was that they called the mother in the first place. If that had been a guy, they would have called colleagues, they would have called bosses, they never would have called somebody's mother.
Okay, a couple of things. First of all, Maya Tanden is claiming that she didn't know this was an on-the-record interview. I don't think we know whether it was or not. I think it may have been. But I always tell my students, if you're talking with somebody who's not used to dealing with the media, don't immediately rely on, this is on the record.
Right.
You need to explain it and go through all that. But maybe they did. We don't know that.
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't. What I would say about calling the mother is, I don't think it's a bad idea, but we don't see it happen very often, do we? If it were routine, I could defend it. But this seemed to come out of left field. Let's call up the mother. It does seem kind of sexist. It does seem like something that you wouldn't do with if you were doing a profile about a man.
Well, God forbid anyone call my mother if they're ever writing a story about me, because that woman has a ton of opinions. She would share all of them. You know, the problem with that story was that it wasn't your classic profile of the human being from birth to now. This was really a story about a political dispute and someone's player in a political dispute. So the mother was a kind of ridiculous source to use in the context of the story. This was about political camps and political operatives doing dirty business with each other. If the mother knew about it through conversations, okay, maybe. But she was any point that could have been made, that was made by her, could have been made by somebody else very easily. So it just felt underhanded and completely unnecessary.
I'm not sure, I'm not disagreeing with your latter assessment, but I'm not sure any other point that was made by the mom could have been made by other people. And I think that might have been why they went to the mom, because she was talking as this fiercely proud mother of the subject, as opposed to, and someone who's not a political operative, as opposed to someone who's more guarded and is going to give you more anodyne quotes that are cautious and aren't going to get people into trouble. And when the Times reporters plugged this on social media, I think Kenneth Vogel was one of the reporters, and he led off his tweet with, "Thanks, Mom." And Neera Tanden claims X, but her mom says Y, which lends credence to the idea that there was something kind of sneaky.
Yeah, she was one of the main sources in that story. She was like the kind of
She
the
wasn't the only
source,
but she was the primary one.
Well, she got the juicy quotes. My daughter is very aggressive.
Yeah. She's going to quit in 2 years, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it definitely was a sexist take on the story, because what they were trying to support was she is a very aggressive person in all that she does. And so therefore, that's why we have the video of Bernie Sanders. That's why she's doing this. You know, she's the aggressive, and who would know better than the woman who birthed her? So that's why that was. And you're exactly right. They wouldn't go to anybody else's mother. No. The other part that I really resent, however, is that her age is put in there.
Oh, I
The
know.
78-year, like she's some doddering old
Ancient.
woman.
I know, elderly.
They put in there by her, right? By Neophytes' mom. Because she, in her statement, she said,
the reporter put it in.
No, the reporter put it in.
But,
and I know.
And the mother did.
So they're playing both sides.
All I can
Afterwards.
say is it is the
How would I
habit.
know?
It is what the New York Times does. Will ask you what your age is. How do I know this? I was many years ago. I've been interviewed by them more than once, but many years ago, a young reporter called me and asked me blah 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 blah. We talked. Then he called back and said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I forgot to ask you your age." I said, "You can ask all you want to. This is the number you will get. 25." Long silence on the phone. I said, "You can go with that, or you can go with nothing." But I am not
all
giving you
newspapers
anything
do. That's a
else.
newspaper
Well,
convention.
I'm just telling you,
Which is
that's
incredibly annoying.
But
I think, but I'm just
Neophytes'
saying,
mom did
you
that
know,
in her
The
statement
broadcast
after.
media does not do that.
I know that, but I'm saying this
This is really an important point because, like you said, yes, age was used by both sides. The Times put it in. So did she in her statement
Yeah,
when
she
she was
did.
claiming,
Right.
"I'm just a 78-year-old immigrant. But these strange customs are unfamiliar to me." She might have laid it on a little thick there too. Also, just so we don't get an angry letter from the Irritandan, Think Progress is supposed to be editorially independent of the Center for American Progress.
That is
but they're-
correct. That is correct.
Okay.
I just think it was just they could have done something else.
Two
So
other
just-
quick points. In addition to all this, the New York Times was quoting from emails stolen from the Russians again, to not much effect. They've done a little bit of public soul searching about this in the past, but now when it suited them, they just shoveled them right into the story again. The other thing is that when this created a storm on Twitter, the two reporters were just incredibly defensive, and
As were some other reporters for the Times who came to their defense.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There
No,
were cheap shots
absolutely.
going all around.
I
Yeah.
thought it was cheap. I mean, I thought just interviewing the mother was cheap, regardless of whether it was.
But the bottom
on or off
line
the
is,
record.
if you're going to talk to somebody, if we presume that
Yeah,
we give her
you're
the
right.
benefit of the doubt that she did not understand, then you need to be saying at the beginning, "Here's
That's
what
right.
I mean."
And she
by
called back
on
and
the
said, "Oh,
record."
by the way, I hope that wasn't." And she said, "It was on the record." It's like, well,
That's the
no.
mom's claim.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah.